and welcome to this very special edition of the Money Show, where today I am at ICICI Pru Mutual Funds office, and with me is the very special S Naren. Hi and welcome to the Money Show. And what a time to have you on the show and on the channel. You know, it's not only about the markets, but also the kind of hand-holding the investors and our viewers really need from you. So let's just start by talking about the markets. What is the sense that you're getting?
Yeah, I think we are at all-time high.
Totally.
I think just now we have reached the all-time high. So it's a very special feeling.
Okay,
and,
but you must have seen so many market highs, right, in your entire span of career, which I think I cannot even fit in one conversation. But then these type of market highs we've seen earlier as well. Okay, talking about valuations, which I feel is a prime concern for a lot of experts like you. Where do you think market is as per valuation? Because India right now is at a very bright spot as compared to the other economies, definitely. Okay. Is valuation a red flag in certain areas for you?
See, clearly valuation in large caps is more comfortable than mid cap and small cap, and micro cap.
Micro cap, yeah.
And I think more than valuation, I think sentiment is the problem, because India is one of the most structural stories over the next decade.
Right.
So I think it is sentiment which is more worrying, that people are much more very positive, particularly on the direct equity side and derivative side.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I would say more than valuation, I would be more worried about sentiment, that people are just too positive.
Okay.
And we have always seen that, you know, when people are too negative, it's a very good period to invest.
To invest, true.
And when people are too positive, it is a time to be more circumspect.
All right, so when you talk about being too positive, you know, India is also having the kind of growth trajectory where we have proved a lot of things to the entire world in terms of our economic growth, the way we have handled the pandemic also. But then if we talk about this positive sentiment, don't you think this is a natural thing to come when an economy like India is growing at this pace?
That is true, but you know, the disadvantage or advantages have seen big bull markets like 1999, 2007, 1994, etc. And during those periods, what I've seen is that the biggest mistakes in investing happen in the biggest bull markets. And when I went back and looked at what people could have done better at that point of time, I found that people didn't practice asset allocation. And people were just focused on equity in 1999 or 2007, and they didn't practice asset allocation. And I believe that, yes, obviously sentiment is very positive in 2007, sentiment is very positive now. Things are looking very positive in 2007, things are looking very positive today. But it is very important to practice asset allocation at all-time high, and things are looking very positive. And that has been what we've learned from over a period of time.
Exactly, and which is why also you have a multi-asset allocation fund, and ICICI Pru is one of the oldest AMC to have this kind of a fund also. And the trust on asset allocation and proper diversification has been the core aspect of you know, your portfolio planning and by the fund house as well. But then you know, let's talk about the concerns of mid cap and small caps now. We've seen regulator as well as AMFI has you know, sort of notified the fund houses also that they should be careful about their allocation, and the overall concern about a lot of money coming into mid cap and small cap. How are you looking at it? We know it's a boom cycle. Okay, mid cap and small cap, they have this kind of a period. Has this time this period slightly gone beyond its usual trend? Are we at the peak right now? Valuations are a concern, maybe. Investor returns which they are seeing in their portfolio are still expecting it to continue. Also because these are the kind of investors who have just come in 2 to 3 years. They have not seen a complete market cycle. How do you analyze
So
it?
I would prefer to talk about what people should do rather than what people... and I feel, you know, what people should do is practice asset allocation.
Totally.
And, you know, it's best, you know, I think the challenges is that to practice asset allocation. So if you look at what's happening to the mutual fund industry over the last 1 year, is people are just not looking at debt.
Yeah.
And people are just focused on equity.
They had started looking, but then there came the taxation change, because of which the benefit also of indexation.
So, you know, how do I get people to invest at least partially of part of their money in debt
Sure.
is by looking at categories like balanced advantage or multi-asset or equity savings. This is what we are trying to get people to do, because I think it is important to focus on those things at this point of time than anything else at this point of time. See, if you start focusing and have a discussion on what is looking overvalued and what is it, then if you look at it as it is, the mutual fund industry is not yet reached the scale which it can reach. So our view is, at this point of time, it is very important to focus on what the industry should do at this point of time.
Okay.
And that is what we are focused on as a company. And there is still scope for the industry to grow.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's not that we have got as many investors in mutual fund industry as we should. And I don't think every investor has invested enough in the mutual fund industry. If you look at the number of demat holders in the country and look at the number of investors that ICICI Mutual Fund has, we don't have as many investors as the number of demat holders in the country. So I think there is huge scope for us to actually focus on what investors should do. And that is invest in categories like equity savings or balanced advantage or multi-asset at this point of time. And that's what we have been trying to tell people to do.
So far, let's assume that someone is having a portfolio that's very well diversified across market caps. Okay, do you think it's the time to rebalance and reallocate your portfolio also? Maybe just come down from mid cap and small cap and look at large caps. Should that rebalancing be done now?
So I think, first of all, you have to look at each investor, that person's age, how long that person looks at. See, the challenge is, having been in this industry, equity related industry for the past 35 years, what I find is people come and tell you, I want to do a 20-year SIP. No, I joined this company in 2004. And just at that time, we launched Discovery. Look at the number of investors who have been in Discovery from 2004 to 2024. So when people come and tell you that I want to do a 20-year SIP, I normally distrust them. Because the number of people who have done 20-year SIPs are very few. If they've genuinely done a 20-year SIP, there's no problem with anything. But the fact is that suddenly in 2013, after 7 years that mid-cap and small-cap have done very, very badly, they would have lost interest in mid-cap and small-cap. Today, if you were in Japan, after 20 years of no return, or in China today, they would have lost interest in SIPs. So the problem with the challenge of investing is always behavioral. So, when people come and tell me different things, I tell them, boss, that is the reason actually after a lot of debate, we created categories like multi-asset for investors or categories like balanced advantage for investors. Because the problem is behavioral. So today, for example, everyone wants the categories which have done well. In 2007, everyone wanted only infrastructure. We used to tell them, look at other things at that point of time. In 1999, people wanted only technology. So what I believe is it is past returns which drive categories. And actually, past negative returns should drive categories. But that people don't do. And that is the challenge of investing. That is why we looked at categories like equity savings or balanced advantage or multi-asset, because there you are not driven by past returns. And that is what we try to tell people to do. So I think this whole debate on your rebalancing and this and that is much more complicated. Choose more defensive categories, then you can expand the market. And because effectively in 2020 kind of year, you end up investing. And that should be the goal of what a mutual fund tries to do. And that is what we've been trying to do over the last few decades.
Exactly. So looking at the SIP inflows also, we just achieved a record high, I mean, going beyond 18,000 crores. But then we are also calling it Khushiyon ki EMI. Do you agree with that? Do you think this number is going to sustain? Because although we've also seen outflows from the SIP numbers, but the way we've seen the participation growing from the B30 towns, okay, we are getting to see a new age group that also interested in mutual funds coming through SIP. Is there stickiness? Do you think this number will go ahead or is over here to sustain?
So I don't know. See, when I tell some of my colleagues that equity markets can at times fall, they say, no, it will never fall. So, there
Well,
are
if they
so
buy-
many,
why would they believe you?
there are so many people in the market today who have not seen falls in the
I
equity
agree.
market.
Yeah.
So, even the SIP boom, there are so many people in SIPs today who have
Yeah.
not seen market falls.
Totally.
How will they
Totally.
react when the market falls? I do not know. So that is why it is much better to practice asset allocation
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah, yeah,
That is
yeah.
what I tell people. So how investors react on a market fall, that is something I don't know.
Yeah, it's more of a behavioral challenge, which you also highlighted earlier. Now, talking about the market situation right now, as a fund house, obviously you have various schemes, but then looking at the important triggers, I know we don't talk short term over here. We have election and then we have budget, etc. But keeping all of these triggers in mind, any specific sectors where you are really bullish at are growth specific sectors, which not necessarily an investor might want to look at it, but you as a fund house is really analyzing it that way.
See, in 2020, you had sectors which had done very badly. Now you had one of the biggest bull markets in Indian history. How do you identify areas which have done badly? There are hardly any areas which have done badly at this point of time. I would love to tell you this area is neglected. Which is the area which has given you negative return at this point of time? Nothing. In 2020, we had metals, we had telecom, we had PSU, we had so many areas at that point, small cap at that point of time. No, where is that area at this point of time? That is a challenge today. So there are no neglected areas at all in the market, because you have seen one of the biggest bull markets after 89 to 94. In my career, this is one of the biggest bull markets. And that is the reason I think asset allocation and hybrid investing is most important at this point of time, because this is not an ordinary bull market. This is a very big bull market.
True. And do you think now the party that we are seeing in mid cap and small cap, because we're talking about a growing sector, growing country, and most of these sectors are a part of mid cap and small cap space, the party will continue, is likely to continue as per the bull run also?
So I think, people think that we know how long a party will continue and how long a party will not continue. These are not knowns. I think what credit is due to the government is that they have managed the macroeconomics well. The Indian corporate sector and Indian banking system is in good shape, but valuations are extended. So that is where we are at this point of time. Whether parties continue or do not continue is difficult for us to say at this point of time.
Any pockets where you have comfortable valuations?
Almost, there are clearly large caps are more comfortable than mid caps and small cap, but there is no cheap area of the market at this point.
True. Going ahead now, I know we don't want to talk about short term and election and budget, etc., but then I can at least ask you about your expectations. How would you want the budget to be placed as? Full budget.
I think we can think about it.
I won't get you another time now, after a few more months.
My goal is at this point of time is to get people into asset allocation and not think of only equities all the time.
Okay.
That is the goal at this point of time. That is where it is, and people not to get too leveraged in equities, because that happened in 94, 95. And that is the goal at this point of time, rather than think on budget at this point of time. Budget is 3-4 months away. So we'll think about budget in June, July. Why think about it today?
Exactly. So follow asset allocation, and definitely you need to rebalance your portfolio, stay invested in equity, but then SIP should be the way as per S Naren. Any more going takeaways or signing off takeaways that you want to give to our investors?
No, nothing specific at this point of time. In bull markets, recognize risk. In bear markets, think long term.
Exactly.
So that is the simple message that I have.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you.